Humans were a new species. Perhaps not new, but new to us. Their application to join the United Systems had been received shortly after first contact, and had been duly approved shortly thereafter. Humans had appeared, first in small groups, then in a flood, as they strove to consume knowledge of the wider galaxy, as though they had been starved for millennia, which I suppose was true. Their traders and merchants were loud and brash, and seemingly in awe of the plethora of products that could be bought and sold on the galactic scale. Many a Galaric merchant was forced to stand by in absolute befuddlement, as a human trader seemingly had a meltdown about something as simple as star salts. Human products soon flooded our markets, and it was now the Galaric merchants' turn to stand wailing, while a confused human wondered if they were going to buy the silk cloth or begin worshipping it. Our lasting surprise came when we called upon the human military to make its contribution to peacekeeping, as all member systems are required to. As a test of their military capability, we invited them to take part in a war game with several of our leading militant races. We did not expect much of the mercantile humans. Surely their military might, such as it was, must be for the protection of trading caravans, more used to seeing off the poorly trained and equipped pirates that sometimes raided for riches in the outer sectors. How wrong we were. Reminiscing about the events of that first war game causes great amusement nowadays. But let me assure you, dear listeners, that, at the time, it was a diplomatic disaster. The humans arrived in their ugly, box-like ships and marched down the boarding ramps in perfect lockstep that would, and did, put the Sakiri infantry to shame. Perhaps it was professional jealousy, but they were widely derided in the staging area for showing up with their newly forged pulse rifles without effective body armor or hovering tanks. They looked, for all the galaxy, like children come to play soldier, in their flak armor with crude rotating wing aircraft and noisy monstrosities that rolled along the ground on tracks. Befitting their status as both newcomer and merchants, they were assigned as the opposition force. They were to take positions and hold them while the real soldiers had a nice warm-up rolling over them in the first stage. Their grizzled-looking general simply nodded curtly when informed, and returned to his troops to begin the day-long preparations before the assault would begin. Our militant races enjoyed a day of R&R, laughing and mocking the humans, who labored out of sight, preparing the objective that they would dismantle in mere hours the following day. When the suns rose the next day, the United Systems military might formed up into an unstoppable hammer of pure aggressive force, and charged the objective en masse, each of them eager to haze these little merchants into their proper place. It was a massacre. Luckily, only non-lethal ammunition was supplied. Otherwise, the United Army would have been crippled by the afternoon. The hammer came upon the objective town to find it was a veritable fortress. Miles of trenching, earthen walls, and brutal barbed cabling that the humans are so fond of. Undeterred, the army plunged headlong into the defenses, being met by a wall of disciplined and accurate pulse and artillery fire. Casualties were astronomical. The attack lasted for only an hour before the United Army pulled back to lick its wounds, and what wounds they were. Around 30% of the infantry and 65% of the armored units had been sent from the field, rubbing sore limbs or trying to get their disabled tank restarted. Surprised but unbowed, the United Army redoubled their efforts and made a series of lightning assaults all around the human perimeter. They didn't even reach the defenses. Before infantry could finish forming up, humans would appear and wipe them out before clambering aboard swift-wheeled transports and disappearing before reprisals could descend upon them. Airfields were attacked from unexpected quarters, deep within friendly territory, by small mobile units of elite human soldiers, and the flyers were disabled before they could even get off the ground. Tanks were lured into ravines and forests by fleeing human armor, only for that same armor to turn on them and tear them apart in vicious melee firefights, picking the United armor apart piecemeal. The United Army suffered terribly. A further 40% of the infantry and half of what remained of the armor were sent back to the staging area. The air fleet was annihilated almost completely. Again, the United Army pulled back. With night falling, they decided to regroup and rethink their strategy before continuing the assault at sunrise the following day. They did not get the chance. Human artillery began the surprise counterattack with a planet-shaking bombardment. Under the cover of this rain of shells, human armor, supported by infantry, roared into the chaotic mess that was the United Army camp. When the artillery stopped firing, the human flyers screamed overhead, spewing tides of happily non-lethal ammunition and airborne soldiers. The attack lasted 2 hours after dark, and every commander on our side was captured or killed in the first 15 minutes. The rout was total, and victory went to the humans. The following morning, the victorious human general addressed his fellows with the first words that he had spoken. As the exhausted and humiliated United Army commanders sat in the briefing chamber of one of their ships, General Hanson made his appearance. Gone was the spit-polished dress uniform. The man wore the same simple fatigues and flak armor as his men, the only difference to his being a rank badge on his hat. He took the podium as his opposite numbers glared at him from the ranks. He stared around the room for a moment, seemingly weighing the quality of those around him. "How have you all survived this long?" he said as he smiled. "That was amateur hour out there. I have rookie units, green as the sky on this planet, who would have done better than the pride of the Galactic Army." There were murmurs of distaste at this point, but no disagreement. How could we disagree? A force 1/5 the size of our own had wiped the deck with us. Now, here's what I propose. You all submit yourselves to some training under a couple of our officers, and we'll see if we can't make soldiers out of you yet. The following months were difficult for the diplomats. There were threats of mutiny, and counter-threats, and somewhat poor taste, truth be told, of sending the humans to sort you out. But in the end, the general got what he wanted. I now congratulate you all on your day of graduation from the General Hanson Military Academy, and wish you all the best in your coming careers among the stars. I leave you with the General's motto to keep in mind as you keep the peace in the wider galaxy. Never underestimate your enemies.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Everything I used is in the description below. If there's a story you'd like to hear narrated, let me know and I'll reach out to the author and see if we can make that happen. Thanks again. It's a scary world out there, but remember, to be brave and look up, to seek the stars.